Hey fangirls and boys, this is Natalie and you're watching Whole Lotta Love, and today's video is a review on the new Lime Crime Venus XL 2 palette. So this is what the palette looks like inside. It is really pretty. It has a lot of brownish, warmish kind of shades. It also has some pinks, and it does have some light sagey green shades in it as well. So I just wanted to do a quick side-by-side comparison to the original Venus XL, because when I saw them do like the first full photo of this, I thought it looked very similar. So I'm going to show these two palettes side by side. So the one on the bottom is the original Venus XL and the one on the top is the new one. Kind of looking at pictures online when they showed more detailed pictures and then just kind of getting a better idea of what the palette really looked like, I realized that they would be pretty different. And in person I would say that they are pretty different. So the original Venus has some more maroony kind of shades, more corally shades, still a lot of pinks. I think both palettes do have a lot of pinks, but this palette, the XL2, goes a little bit lighter because it has light pinks in it and it has light greens in it. So overall I think it's a pretty light palette, and there are some deeper brown shades and kind of warmer brown shades to kind of balance everything out. So that's what the two palettes look like side by side. I do think that they are quite different, and I am going to go ahead and swatch the new Venus XL palette on my arms now. So this is all 18 shades of the new Lime Crime Venus XL2 palette swatched out. I think that they all pretty much for the most part swatch out very nice and pigmentedly. I think that they also perform very pigmentedly on the eyes. So in the video I will demo this eye look, and similar to the Venus XL1, I think that they blend out beautifully. It's a very nice formulation, so I feel like, yeah, overall I feel like this, you're getting a very nice quality here. It's very easy to work with, very pigmented. It doesn't really give you too much problems in terms of the shimmers or the mattes, so I'm really enjoying that. I will say a little bit of difference in terms of the formulation. This one has more foiled shades, or this one has foiled shades period. I will say that the Venus XL didn't really have too much foiledness going on. The shade Inspire, you could say, is maybe a little bit foiled, but maybe even more of just a stronger shimmer. So overall, this palette was kind of more like shimmers and mattes, and this one has a lot more mattes. This palette only has 4 mattes, I want to say, so I feel like you kind of, for building out the look, doing the crease and stuff like that, I feel like you're kind of stuck to a certain set of shades to do that, and then kind of play with the different lid shades, as opposed to this palette where you could do different things in the crease as well as different things in the lid. So I will say that the original Venus XL, I do think I prefer this one. This was actually one of my favorite palettes of 2018. I really do love this palette. I think the formulation is just beautiful, and if you like pinks and stuff like that, I think and warm tones, I think there's a lot of versatility to be had within the original Venus XL. This one, I just feel like it's a little bit trickier to kind of come up with looks. I think it's a little bit more limiting. So for me, and also in addition to there only being 4 mattes, one of the mattes you have is this sage color, which is really pretty. It is really unique. It's kind of like a mid-toned sagey green kind of shade. But I feel like to work with this shade in the crease, you would kind of have to have something a little bit different to pair it with. I would say something like a light, cool tone brown shade, which there isn't really one in this palette. I originally tried, I've done, kind of played with this before doing this video, and I tried to use Bloom as a transition shade, and then Sage as a crease shade, and it looked really muddy. I really didn't like how it looked. So I'm kind of a little bit leery of trying to use Sage in the crease. Maybe if I just don't go in with the transition shade or have that as the main kind of crease shade, I think that Sage would be a little bit nicer that way, but then trying to kind of mix it with some of these other colors, I think it's kind of going to turn up a little bit muddy unless it has a proper counterpart, something that's maybe just a light cool tone brown shade, or a light gray, something that's not in this palette, to kind of balance that out if you want to go with the transition shade and then use Sage as a crease shade. So that was a little disappointing because the one true green matte shade, I'm just not super crazy about it as a dominant color in the look, in the crease and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of my thing with this palette. I feel like it's a little bit weird to come up with unique combinations if you're going for the whole look with the crease. I do think just in terms of you kind of doing the same thing in the crease, For this look, I used In Bloom. The look I have on now, I used In Bloom as a transition. You'll see it also in the demo, Ripe in the crease, and then Celestial on the outer corner. I feel like you can kind of keep doing that and then just picking different shimmers and doing possibly a half cut crease like what I did, no cut crease, a spotlight cut crease, you know, halo eye, whatever you want to do with different colors of shimmer, but then just kind of do the same thing in the crease every time. So it's kind of like one of those palettes. I feel like there are a lot of palettes like that with like a lot of shimmers and then just like your, you know, standard matte shades to kind of work with. So for some people that might actually be easier to work with. For me, it just seems like it lacks a little bit of versatility. Now, in terms of the pricing and sizing, this is $58, the Venus XL2, and the Venus XL1 is also $58. So in terms of the amount of product you're getting a little bit less product, even though these palettes do both retail for $58. You're getting a little bit less product in the Venus XL2 than the Venus XL Original. So in the Venus XL Original, you get a total of 0.3006 grams, which is 1.67 grams per pan, 0.059 ounces per pan. And then with this one, with the Venus XL2, you're getting 26.28 grams of product total, which is 0.05 ounces of product or 1.46 grams of product per pan. I feel like that might be because they kind of went with some like more shimmery shades. So to me, they probably didn't want to price it up. So they might have done a little bit less product to kind of keep like the value the same, because some of these shimmers are a little bit richer and sparklier and kind of nicer than the Venus XL. That's one thing that I will say that this palette has going for it over the Venus XL. It's just, the shimmers are really beautiful. Like you could see the one on my lid is just so, it's so foiled and glittery and glossy and just really beautiful. And there's a few of them like that in this palette. So just in terms of some packaging details, they are pretty similar. They both have the Venus on them. This one kind of has like the little like halo lights coming out, the original one. This one has like fruits and stuff without the halo and the crown. And she has like a little nose ring, which I don't know if you can see that, but that's really, really cute in the Venus XL2. She doesn't have that in the original Venus XL. So they did kind of, even though it is similar packaging, it's not a copy with just slightly different colors. They did kind of play around with the packaging, which I think is really fun, and both have really pretty packaging. So in terms of this as compared to the original Venus 2 palette, so when they started teasing this palette, I think people got really excited because, you know, the original Venus XL was very similar, like an expanded version of the original Venus palette, so people expected that this would be an expanded version of this, which is the original Venus 2 palette. So I'll show you this inside as a comparison. And I think people were pretty disappointed when they saw like the overall difference, like when they saw the reveal of this palette as compared to this palette. So I'll show you the two palettes here side by side. So on top you have the Venus XL2, on the bottom you have the original Venus 2. So I kind of feel similarly. I feel like what they were trying to do is they were trying to get the vibe of both the original Venus XL with the Venus 2. Like they were trying to combine both those ideas into one palette. I feel like they would have been better off if they had stuck with kind of keeping more to the Venus, because the original Venus and the Venus 2 are so different from each other. I feel like for the Venus XL2 they should have stuck more to this one and not tried to kind of get both vibes of the original Venus XL and the Venus 2 into one palette for the Venus XL2. I think that they were kind of overstretching there a little bit, which is kind of where I think the color scheme kind of gets a little bit weird. So I will say though that they actually did put a lot of greens. It doesn't really seem like it when you look at it really quickly, but there are like 5 or 6 true green shades in this, and they're all really unique shades of green that you don't see a lot in palettes. So I think kudos for that. And it is its own color scheme. It's like a very light color scheme with just a little bit of depth to play with. Not too much. It's overall not a very heavy smoky palette, something more like ethereal and light, pretty and stuff like that. So in the original Venus 2 you get, this is kind of like a duochrome teal to brown kind of shade, but it's a little bit greeny, so we'll consider that a green shade. And then there's the shade Marsh here, so that's pretty greeny. And then even the shade Fly has like a little bit of a greeny shift. So I think there's 3 shades in this palette that are pretty green. So I think that since there's more green in this palette than I would say like blue or something like that, or the black, I think they went with the greens And I think they kind of understand that the market is kind of really hyping on green shadows. I love green eyeshadow. I've said that a million times. It's such a beautiful way to play with color that's really flattering to the eye. So I think that trend is really coming up, and I think they really jumped on it at a pretty good time. And especially using such unique shades in this palette, I think that was really smart. And I get where they were going, because the original Venus 2 does have a, you know, strong green selection in it, so to speak, where I feel like they could have kind of spiced this one up a little bit more. You know, obviously they could have put some blues in it, but even if they didn't want to do that, they could have played with the mattes a little bit better. Like, what was so amazing about this palette originally, I think, was you didn't see these kind of shades like mustard all the time, or even like jam. Like this palette came out a long time ago. I'll put on the screen exactly when it came out, and this was like a pretty original color scheme at the time. I think this came out before Subculture. This came out before Jeffree Star's Androgyny palette. It might have even come out before that Viseart Dark Mattes palette. So this was pretty unique for the time when it came out. Now we've seen more palettes like that, but I think they could have copied that a little bit more. Like, you have the shade Ripe, which kind of, I guess, is kind of something that plays off of some of these warm tone mattes in this palette. Classical is a pretty generic brown shade. I feel like they could have played with some of those, you know, warm tone mattes a little bit more in this palette. Especially, it would have been nice to get a little more matte in the palette. And even like this beautiful black, like they could have done something with like some multi-tonal sparkle, which is what's cool about this shade in this palette, which they didn't really do. It does have some nice sparkly shades, so maybe that was kind of like harkening back to this shade here. But overall, and there is a duochrome in this palette. They did do duochrome in the Venus XL2. I'll say the shade Radiant, the shade right here, is like a duochrome. It's kind of like leans like a little bit greeny gold. So I feel like there is a little bit duochrome. Obscure is like a mint green that leans a little bit gold. So they kind of kept that in mind, because the Venus XL did have duochromes. So, or not the Venus XL, the original Venus 2 had the duochrome, so I think they honored that for the Venus XL2. So I think that the palette is more similar to the original Venus 2 than people think just upon looking at it, but I think they should have tried to kind of keep it more in the vein of the original Venus 2, as opposed to trying to combine the original Venus XL with the Venus 2, because this color scheme, it's a little bit tricky. You kind of have to think about it a little bit more to work with it, and things can get muddy and stuff like that if you're not combining the right shades. And with the palette, you should kind of ideally be able to combine all the shades and have them look super duper beautiful. So in addition to the eyeshadow palette, I also got a couple of the new brow products, newish brow products by Lime Crime. I got the Bushy Brow Precision Brow Pencil, and I got the Bushy Brow Strong Hold Gel, both in the shade Brownie, which is a dark brow shade. So I'm going to demo these products as well, so you'll see how they work out on my brows. And I also got a couple of the glosses from the launch. I got the Wet Cherry Gloss and Cherry Slime, which just looks so cool. It's like this green, like slightly green tinted base with like iridescent greeny glitter in it, which is really pretty. And then I got the Unripe Cherry shade, which is just like a light peachy shade. So pretty excited for the glosses that launched as well with this palette. So I show those products as well in the video. So anyway, if you are interested in seeing how I got this look and seeing how the Venus XL2 palette performs, as well as some of the other newer Lime Crime products, if you are interested in seeing that, then keep on watching. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with brows, which I wouldn't normally do, but I'm going to do this because I have a couple of new brow products from Lime Crime. I have the Bushy Brow Precision Pen, and I also have the Bushy Brow Strong Hold Gel, both in the shade Brownie. So I'm going to go ahead and use those. I actually had put some oil on my face, but I used a cotton round to just like wipe off my eyebrows. I know Dupe That had some high praises for the Bushy Brow Precision Pen, but they said that if you have any oil or anything on your face, it's not really going to stick because it's kind of like a marker. So I just wiped them off with a cotton round. Hopefully that'll be enough. Since I don't have a spoolie with that, I'm going to just comb my brows, just any spoolie really. I'm just going to use this one from my Winky Lux eye pencil just to kind of comb through my brows a little bit. So I am going to start filling in my brows. I have, again, the Bushy Brow Precision Pen in the shade Brownie by Lime Crime. So this is what the tip looks like. You can kind of see it right there. It's just like a really fine felt tip, I guess that would be. Or Or maybe it's a brush tip. It's always hard for me to tell what it felt in a brush tip. I think it's a brush tip. It's like a really fine brush tip. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling in my brows with this. And I'll zoom in a little bit as well. So you could see this is my brow so far, the one that I filled in for the most part versus one that has nothing on it. So far I'm kind of feel like there's a little bit of a learning curve with this. I feel like I have a little bit of like demarcation, like maybe I put too much pressure, like when I was filling in right here. You probably can't see that on camera, but it's just kind of bugging me a little bit. I do like that it's such a fine tip because I feel like you can really get into the like sparse areas, whereas with like a pencil, which is what I would normally use, it might be a little bit easier with like a dip brow product, like an angled brush. But I know with like a pencil, sometimes if you try to get into those areas and kind of keep it like fine little hair strokes, like it doesn't really want to fill in without you kind of really putting pressure and therefore risking a Sharpie brow situation. But with this, it's just such a fine tip. You can kind of really just get into those areas that are kind of like a little bit trickier to fill them. I think it looks pretty nice actually. So overall, I'm pretty much liking it. I think it does take a little bit longer to get there, but I think it looks nicely filled, and it's really easy to kind of get into those little sparse areas like in between and just build those out. But it's kind of, you have to make sure not to put too much pressure or else you're going to kind of have like little dots, like kind of like what I have going on like at the edge of my brow a little bit. But even if you wanted to create like little strokes up here, like in the front of your brow, you can kind of do that a little more with a little more fineness than like with something like a pencil, which is what I would normally use. So I'm gonna fill in my other brow and then I'll try out the brow gel. So this is how the second brow looks filled in with the precision pen. It does kind of seem like as you're using it, like as I moved on from the first eye to the second eye, that the pen starts to kind of dry out. I don't feel like it's completely like dried out, like I'm not going to be able to use it after a couple of times, but I feel like you kind of have to. It's weird because it's like it kind of dries out once it's like exposed to air, but I think like once you put the cap back on, it'll kind of refresh itself. But while you're doing your brows, it doesn't give you enough time like where it's like really, really wet. So I feel like it took me even longer to kind of fill in this brow. I think that they look pretty good. I feel like one thing that's good about it is you don't really have to, and it's like, since it's like a liquid versus like something like a pencil, like a creamy kind of product, you can't really like blend it out with a spoolie. But I don't really feel like you have to blend it out so much because the strokes are so fine. It doesn't like it doesn't end up looking like too filled in certain areas and too unnatural. I think it's a pretty nice looking fill-in. I don't think it'll necessarily replace my Maybelline Total Temptation brow pencil, but I think it's fine. And I actually do like this shade for me. So I'm gonna move on to which I'm even more excited about, the Bushy Brow Strong Hold Gel, also in the shade Brownie. I really like brow gels because I feel like it really kind of helps you get that bushy look, kind of like helps your lashes, your brows stay up so you can kind of really achieve that look. This is what it looks like. And I'll open it up here. I guess it's like a twist off, yeah. So it's like a really fine, kind of like spoolie looking thing. You can see that right there. And I really like brow gels because it's like such an easy way, and a lot of them have fibers in them, and they kind of like help your brows stay up, but they also kind of like fill in a little bit. It's just like such a nice, easy way to add a little more volume and quick fill in. If a lot of times, you know, if I don't want to go all the way, I'll just use the brow gel and I won't use a brow pencil to fill in. So I'm just using this here. That's the brow gel on. I feel like there is like a little bit of gookiness like on the tip of this thing, so you kind of have to wipe that off or else it gets on your brows. But the fact that it is so thin, you can also kind of take the tip a little and fill in a little bit more if you're just using brow gel per se. But I do find that it's kind of getting a little bit stuck in my brows, like that little excess product. Typically, I really like the Glossier Boy Brow and the Milk Makeup Kush Brow Gel in the Dutch shade. Those are the ones I normally use. I think I like those a little bit better than this. And the Tonia Crooks Brow Gal Fiber Brow Gel. It's like, I think that one's more similar to this kind of long, skinny, spoolie wand. That one I really like too. I'll have to play around with this one a little bit more. So brows are done, concealer is on, and on my lids for primer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the concealer I placed down. I'm actually gonna jump into the Venus 1 palette, the original Venus XL palette, and I am going to use the shade Blank Canvas because there isn't like a cream matte setting kind of shade for light skin tone in my Venus 2 so much. So I'm just gonna take this Blank Canvas shade and just set that down. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump into the Venus XL2 palette. So I'm gonna start here with the shade In Bloom. So this is just like a mid-tone rosy pink kind of shade, and I'm using my Royal and Lime Nickel Omnia BOM 45 brush. I'm just gonna create like a transition with this. Just putting this above my crease. So I've done my transition. I think that looks pretty good. It blended out pretty smoothly. I am going to go into the shade Ripe here. The shade right here, and I'm going to put that in my actual crease underneath where I put In Bloom. And I'm using my OCC Cosmetics Smaller Tapered Blending. I'm dusting off a little bit of the excess, and I'm going to go into my crease with this shade. This one is pretty powdery. You can see it right there. So this is the shade In Bloom as a transition with Ripe in my crease. I think that that looks pretty good. It blended out pretty easily and it doesn't look muddy or anything. I'm going to use the NYX Pigment Primer, and I'm going to create a half cut crease with this. To do so, I am also going to use the Morphe M421 brush. I'm just coating my brush. So using the Royal and Lime Nickel BOM 42 flat shader brush, I'm going to go into this shade over here called Crown. This one, which is kind of just like a peachy pink foiled metallic shade. And I'm going to lay that where I created the cut crease. So that is Crown, where I've cut my creases. I laid that down. It looks really pretty. It looks very sparkly and foiled and shimmery and super pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my OCC Smaller Tapered Blending Brush. I'm going to go into the shade Classical, which is the deepest matte in the palette. It's just like a, I guess like a neutral brown shade. So I'm just going to kind of blend that on the outer just to buff out that edge of that cut crease a little bit and just deepen the outer just a little bit. Just putting a little more Classical just to make sure that I don't lose too much of that shade, that pink shimmery shade that we laid down. So I don't think I'm going to create a wing for this look. I'm going to use this shade Obscure here, which is kind of like a, it's like a satin shade. It's like a mint green shade that has like a little bit of a duochrome goldy satiny shift to it. It's pretty unique, cool color. So I'm going to go back to my, this is my Royal and Lime Nickel BOM 42 brush, and I'm just coating that. And I'm going to kind of do this as like an inner corner, like a fun take on an inner corner highlight. So there's a little bit of a green pop there. And that looks really pretty already. Packed on, it's packing on really nicely. You can definitely see that green and has that little bit of shimmer, so you could definitely use it. Doesn't look too crazy as an inner corner highlight. So this is the eye so far. I'm gonna line my waterline, and I'm gonna use the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade Mildew. I'm just going to line my waterline with this. This is just like an olivey green shade. I am going to apply mascara. I have the Milk Makeup Kush Mascara. So mascara is on. I'm going to do my lashes and the rest of my face off camera. For lashes, I'm going to use these Kiss Lash Couture Naked Drama lashes in the shade, in the style Tool. I'm going to use these lashes and I'm going to do all of that off camera, and I will be right back to finish the lower lash line and do my lips. Okay, so I am back. Lashes are on. The rest of my face is done. I'm going to finish up my lower lash line. Again, I'm going to take that Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in Mildew, and I'm going to line my actual lower lash line with this. I just think this pencil really complements this palette very nicely. I'm going to take my Alamar Cosmetics pencil brush and I'm just going to smudge out and buff out where I placed that pencil on my lower lash line. Taking my OCC Cosmetics smaller tapered blending brush, I'm going to go into the shade Sage right here, which is a sage green matte shade. I'm just going to put that on my lower lash line just to kind of add a little more of that green color there. Get the lower lash line a little bit more blown out. So I have finished with the eyeshadow, and I'm going to finish my lower lashes again with the Milk Makeup Kush Mascara. I am going to finish with lips. I have the Dose of Colors lip pencil, and this is in the shade Ruffled, and I'm going to line my lips and fill in my lips with this color. I have lined and filled in my lips, and I'm going to finish off with lip gloss. I have here the Wet Cherry lip gloss in the shade Cherry Slime. This is what it looks like. It looks so fun and unique. It's kind of like this iridescent green base color, like this iridescent green glitter with like a little bit of a sheer green base color. So that's super pretty, and I'm going to put this on my lips. So this is the lip gloss on my lips. I think it looks pretty, and I'm also happy to say that I don't really feel the glitter in it on my lips. I had previously purchased one of the glittery Wet Cherry lip gloss. I think it was in this shade Disco Cherry, and that one had really chunky glitter on it. It was really gritty on my lips, and that usually doesn't bother me, but in this case it was just like really intense. But I don't really feel it in this one, so I think they've kind of done more sheer glitter in this, which is really nice. I don't really like the smell of these too much. I feel like they're kind of like this artificial cherry that like kind of has like a little bit of putridness to it, so I'm not super crazy about the scent on those, but that is what it looks like on my lips, and I think it looks really pretty. I also purchased the shade from this new launch that they had done. I also purchased the shade Unripe Cherry, and I will just go ahead and swatch that on my hand for you guys. So this is what it looks like. That probably would have gone even better with this Ruffled lip liner. This is just like a light peachy gloss. This is a cream. It's not like glittery or anything. So that's what that one looks like, and I think that's really pretty. It's so super slick and shiny, which is really, really nice. So this is the completed look. I really like how it turned out. I think the eyes look great. I really love the formulation in this palette. I think everything was really easy to work with. It's really easy to get a nice, pretty blended out look. So I'm really happy with how the eyes turned out. I love the lashes. The lip gloss looks really nice and shiny. It doesn't give like a weird tone, even though it is like this really cool, unique green looking color. I think it looks really pretty on the lips. So I'm really happy with how everything turned out, and I will list all the other products products I used on my face off camera. I'll list all of those products in my description box below. So anyway, that completes this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and have a good one. Bye guys.